The best predictor of whether somebody will have difficulties learning to read and spell is something called phonemic awareness. It's the ability for the brain to be able to isolate, that means hear the smallest sound units in words when we say them. Now, this has nothing to do with how well you hear, but this is to do with how well your brain processes the sounds in words. So what we do is we assess children, as you see here. I was assessing like 150 children in 45 minutes to see if they have brains that need extra work, extra support, so that we can wire their brains to be able to learn to read and spell. Because if you can't hear the sounds in words, when somebody says the words, you can't hear ch, ip, or what have you, you're not going to be able to learn phonics. You're not going to be able to learn the representations for those speech sounds on paper. And unfortunately, some teachers, probably because of the guidance from the Department of Education, what have you, think that if you teach phonics, you're going to develop the phonemic awareness, which actually isn't true for a lot of kids like you, especially if you are dyslexic. And hopefully you can actually, if we can follow your journey, we can actually show policymakers that the phonics you got when you were younger wasn't enough to overcome your phonemic awareness deficits, and also the programs don't really explain to teachers that how important the phonemic awareness is, and that their programs may actually prevent the phonemic awareness from developing. And so the teachers at your school might have been absolutely brilliant, best intention in the world, but depending on the program that they used, the phonics program they used, it probably never actually helped you to develop the skills or to train your brain in the way that it needed to be wired to help you find this a lot easier. So if this wasn't picked up when you were, 5, then it means that all this time you've been trying to understand how to read and spell without having that phonemic awareness, and it's been ridiculously hard for your poor brain, because it's kind of like having somebody's legs tied together and then saying to them, right, I'm going to teach you how to run, and never realizing that your ankles are tied together. So the reason that I asked you to duck hand those few words was because I wanted to know, is your brain ready to learn to read and spell? And if not, that's what we have to do to start off with. And the great news is that it's actually pretty easy for me to change your brain, to rewire your brain, so that you can hear those sounds, you can blend those sounds together, and so that you will be able to learn how to read and spell using phonics and all sorts of other strategies. So that's where we are now. So I wanted to know, can you hear the sounds in these 7 words? I asked you to use your duck hand because that shows me when you have to do your duck hand, which is what you can see here. The duck beak is opening and closing for every speech sound. I work with a lot of non-speaking children, so it's really nice because they can actually use their hand to show me where the sounds would be, even if they can't actually say them. But it also is a really easy way for me as a teacher to see how these brains of these gorgeous children are working. So let's have a look at how you did with those 7 words. And I say phonemic awareness, it's how your brain is wired. And it doesn't actually matter how intelligent you are. Um, when you're born, about 1 in 5 children at least don't have brains that are actually wired to be able to process the speech sounds. So that's my job, is to make sure that I give you the skill to be able to do that, because then everything else falls into place. And if we screen when children are in reception, makes all the difference.
Good morning, Lily.
Lily.
Good morning, Leo.
Leo.
Good morning, Lulu.